Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. We're taking a look today at Kostiantynivka, which is a city which is now being put into a cauldron. I made a video some time ago about this odd movement from the Russian forces where they had entered Klinove. They have actually improved their position in Bezimiane, and now they have entered Viroliubivka. So basically, the Russians are putting the city of Kostiantynivka into a semi-cauldron surrounding the city on three sides. They're still working their way up from the Kliban Bik water reserve, or Kliban Biski Bik, I'm not too sure. But anyway, this big water reserve here to the south that was a huge barrier for the Russian forces and kept them at bay for a very long time. So they are now moving past towards Berestok, and so they're moving towards the southern part of Kostiantynivka. They're actually already in the city, and they're very close to the northern suburbs of Kostiantynivka. So if we take a look at the same area on another map, this is DivGen, this is a pro-Russian mapper. We have quite a bit of that area, Klinove, Viroliubivka, and this other city, as a kind of a gray zone. So the Russians are basically, like I say, putting Kostiantynivka into a semi-cauldron, three-sided cauldron. So all they need to do is extend over to Osikove, and they basically will trap the Ukrainian defenders in the city of Kostiantynivka. If you look over here to the west of Kostiantynivka, there really aren't very good access points. I mean, really the only one left is the one that goes through Dova Balka. And that looks like a small road, and it's very close to where the Russians should be located. So they will have to go through quite a gauntlet of FPV drones in order to get to Kostiantynivka to resupply, to do rotation of forces. So basically you can see Kostiantynivka is starting to be put into a cauldron. And if we look north of Kostiantynivka, we have the key cities of Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. So the goal, of course, of the Russian Federation is to take these three key cities, Kostiantynivka, Kramatorsk, Slovyansk. These will be not only key urban areas, but also morale-boosting victories and morale-draining losses for the Ukrainians. This isn't going to happen overnight, but anyway, you can see that what initially looked like a fake news, or maybe a too much iffy information in this area, is now looking a lot more solid. So we have the Russian forces now to the north of Kostiantynivka. From here, they can also cover quite an area with the FPV drones. So this whole road that comes down from the north into Kostiantynivka will also be under constant surveillance, as well as the railroad lines, if they're going to be walking down or leaving on the railroad line. So this is not looking good for Ukraine. And take into account Siversk is very close to being captured. Liman is also has a strong presence of the Russian forces. The only place where the Ukrainians are really doing okay is Kupiansk. They seem to have concentrated all their forces, and we can take a look at that in another video. But anyway, the Ukrainians seem to be giving up in this area. They also were attempting to maintain a corridor going in and out of Mirnograd and Pokrovsk, but that area now is completely cut off from the Ukrainians, and the area where the Ukrainian soldiers are trapped in Mirnograd is getting smaller by the day. The Russians are now in the center of Mirnograd, so it's just a matter of time before the Russian forces sweep through Mirnograd and clear the city and declare victory. They've already declared victory in Pokrovsk, and we can expect in Mirnograd in a few weeks. So with all the high rises that are in Mirnograd, it's very slow going. Unfortunately, the Ukrainians make themselves seen during the day, and they put a target on their backs when they go back into the buildings where they're hiding. So this is moving this process along even faster. So anyway, I thought I would bring this to your attention. And so it looks like Kostiantynivka now has a timer, and its capture by the Russians is just a matter of time, if we can believe these advances of the Russian forces. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that to your attention, and I appreciate you joining me for this video. If you have any comments, please do so below. I'll leave the link to these maps below. Also, finally, I'll just touch on the deep state map. You can see here from the deep state map, they are way behind the progress of the Russian forces. Somebody apparently had connected the deep state map to some betting software, so they were taking bets on when cities would be captured or lost by either sides, the Russians or the Ukrainians. But since this map is so unreliable, that whole betting service had a terrible time. So you don't want to bet, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket with the deep state map. This is basically now becoming propaganda for the Kiev regime, as they try to shore up international support for their forces, and as they move towards what they're hoping is some sort of ceasefire prior to an election. So I don't believe that the Russians will ever agree to any kind of ceasefire with the Ukrainians. Maybe a Christmas ceasefire, but that will be it, or a New Year's ceasefire. I think that there's a Christmas ceasefire also on the 6th of January. But anyway, I don't know if they're even going to attempt that this year, because in the past the Ukrainians and Russians both continued fighting as if there was no ceasefire. So it's just not going to work. But anyway, if you're visiting the deep state map for up-to-date advances by either the Russians or Ukrainians, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. They're weeks behind. And if you even look at the area of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, you basically see Mirnograd and Pokrovsk, in most of it in the gray zone. So anyway, that'll tell you a lot about this mapping service. Unfortunately, it was much more reliable in the past, especially when the Ukrainians were on the offensive and winning. But now that they're losing many areas, now it's all propaganda and churning out a narrative. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one. And if you have any comments to make, please do so below. Take care. Bye-bye.